So this is me, right? And I'm talking to actually you. You were 2, 3 years ago, and I was sitting there just like saying, I really, really need to learn new skills. Not because I didn't have enough, right? But because I wanted to just jump, right? Technology, when you work in technology, you are always in the point when, you're working in a company, you code and you work with your team and you do all that stuff only because it's needed, right? Because it's business need. And the technology that you get into is whatever the technology is there, right? And you just keep doing that because that is your daily job. But then, year after year, and I was getting like, I really want to start learning, right? Cloud computing. I want to start learning new languages, right? Like computer science languages, right? To create applications, to create, see how the startup environment works in Mexico City, and, things like that. So I wasn't getting anywhere, and I'm feeling like really need to hack some skills, hacking. So what I start thinking is, I'm not that kind of person. I'm not, right? Like getting into studying a training, a course, and all, and then doing an exam. I don't have the time. I have the time, but I don't really like to just get into that point and say, you know what? I don't want to just do theory and say I don't want like a stamp say yeah you're good. I want to learn. So what I did, I started thinking, well, what skills do I need? So I found like 4 or 5 technologies that they were like together, and I started learning. But the way that I started learning was because I was getting like I want to learn a new computer science, computer language that is easier the one that I do, and that is easy to actually the one that I have been working for 20 years. So now that language was Golang. I went with Node.js and then Golang, and then I found I have already have the GitHub repository. That is the place in the internet when you go and put all your code, all your projects, all the versions that you work, everything you put there. I had that for years, but then all of a sudden, I started working in that language, right? So I got a small idea about the project. I started working, weekends and all that, in the afternoons, on that technology. I started learning, and then and then I started learning that technology, and but I started learning everything, right? So the very first thing is I was not going to pay a penny, right? I was learning, so I'm not going to invest and throw away my money, right? I like my money and I work hard for that, so that has to be free first of all. So I found free stuff. Like, what is free? Where to put my code that I found, right, in GitHub. I learned GitHub like 3 years ago and stuff like that, and then I found when you code a program and you do this project is doing something, it has to be run in some place, right? It has to just you have to put it, and it has to run and be executed somewhere. So I found different places, right? Because I wasn't waiting, I really like in that moment of time, what I wanted, I want to learn how cloud technology and deploys and things like that, right? And then, but it's like there is like options, Amazon and things like that, and I was like, sure, right? But I wasn't going to pay. No way, of course not. So what I find, and that's the important thing, is I went and find alternatives about where can I deploy the work that I'm doing, the effort, the projects or whatever, and then use it and learn how to use it, and then how to say, okay, I'm coding here, I'm working doing solution or some idea, design stuff, putting there, oh, this program is going to do this and that, and then how to, put that code and make it running somewhere. Hola, Ingrid. And then, sure, I just did. And está bien. I know English and Spanish, so you're good, English. So what I did is I put that, I learned how is the path. Computers are like very basic humans, right? They need to follow a path, and they don't ask questions. They just follow orders. But you have to know, what orders. So I put the orders and everything, and I learned the steps, right? From whatever it was that I code, create and stuff, and then put it there. So I found alternatives. Some have already gone. This is the age of you put a new company and then it works for 5 years and you are the most famous technology techie something, and then you go all of a sudden just go broke, right? So say for example, an alternative back then was eso está muy bien, JK. And then I found this Heroku, a platform that was free, but not like sometimes free. And I didn't want to put my credit card, I'm like, no way, I don't want to spend a penny. So I put that money, I found that I use Heroku, I learned how to deploy. That is the word, deploy. And that means putting whatever you code, whatever your idea, you code and everything, and you say, these are the steps and everything, and put that thing, put it together and put it somewhere, and it's running, it's using it. Anyhow, what happened then is I started learning some other stuff, and I started, putting, and then I was using another interesting question. Pregunta interesante. And then I start putting all that code there, right, and all the alternatives and all. And then all of a sudden I start learning more stuff and more stuff and more stuff, and I start learning technology, and I start doing projects, and I start doing a lot of scenarios and things. And what happened is that like in 6-8 months I was doing a lot of new projects, and then I found some interesting companies. Good night, buenas noches. And then I start, finding interesting companies, and I just say website TechCrunch as like technology news and all that, and I like to find like new startups in San Francisco or something like that. Good night. And then I start using it, founding, and start downloading the code of those projects, and I was getting comfortable. Like first I was struggling, but I was like just learning, and that is fine. That is fine. But then I start learning, and I start still doing crazy things like crazy computer science stuff, development stuff. And it worked. And then after a year, I was feeling comfortable with that technology. And I start getting like more projects, like, this is an interesting project. And I start just go, and the word when you find a project that you like is clone. You go and clone that one, and then start working, and then start using, tools. It's like a set of tools. Like when you are learning like to build a house or to fix a car, there is a lot. Bye bro. You start to find the tools that you are going to need. So as you move forward, and you learn more, and you struggle with stuff, and then you have some needs. That is what is happening. You just pick new tools, and then you start learning using, and then once you get comfortable using those, you start getting into more and more and more. Anyhow, what happened is that after I didn't have, I was very comfortable with it first. And this is the important part, because tools are just that, it's just things that you learn to use. The important thing is what was happening inside my mind. Because what was happening inside my mind was this. I was getting into my mind the way the cloud computing worked and how a developer, one or several developers working together, have to work like that, right? So, and the interesting part is to get that, you have to work in a company, you get into a training course. And I was still in my day job, right? Working like 8 to 6 or something like that. But in my mind, I was getting into all those elements that give me an idea, a very good one, because I was, trying. And the other thing is, free tools or tools that are free that you are not, I know, that are not, you have to learn more, because there is a lot of stuff that you have to go and actually see how it works. Because the free tools are a little bit basic and you have to know more stuff. Expensive tools that you get from company or whatever when you work in your day job, you expect very high, just a click or 2 clicks, right? And you don't understand what is happening behind. But in the free tools, in the basic tools, you have to learn, because you pretty much are pushing. It's like you buy a basic car, right? You have to pretty much push the car to get it to places. So you learn more. And this is the interesting part, because tools change. Every year there's new tools. Some tool just disappear and the new one just came along. But what's happening is that my mind was finally understanding, connecting the dots, right? Like, oh, this is what this means. Oh, this is what, things like that. So, guess what? After 2 years, I become kind of like an expert of technology. Those languages that I was using, and it was good, because, I was like there. And then I updated my LinkedIn profile, LinkedIn, that is the internet place where all the professionals go and put, oh, I have this experience, like for resumes or things like that. In Spanish is curriculum vitae. And there's jobs and there's people that offer jobs. So I update there the information that I have learned. And I start getting requests from people that want to interview me because they were trying to offer me a job. The interesting part is I'm very happy with my job. I wasn't looking for a new job. But then all of a sudden, people were getting like, oh my gosh, this guy has a GitHub, directory, and they went there and saw how many projects and the kind of projects, and it was good. I like that part. But this is how things work, and this is how the universe works, right? When you don't know why you are learning something. All of a sudden you're like, I really need to learn this. But then, what was, like, what? It was this. I was let, somebody in my company where I work say, hey, we're going cloud. So you are being moved to a project that is in the cloud. I was like, really? So I spent 2 years before that moment, 3 years, learning by myself, with my effort in free tools, with the free environment and all that. And then all of a sudden, the company that I worked, they were having a project for cloud, and I was getting there. So I go in that project, and the people that, and the person or people that create that project, they left for another thing. So all of a sudden, everything was in my hands. Saying like, hey, you are in charge now, learn. You have like 5 minutes to learn. But the interesting part is, in that moment, they told, oh my gosh, this guy he just has 5 minutes to learn everything because, we are doing stuff and we expect this to be working because this is a company. But the thing is, I was prepared for that because I have prepared 2 years outside, and that's thinking outside the box. That is when you hack your skills, right? You hack yourself and say, yes, I'm comfortable, but I want to learn something else, right? I really, really want to learn something else. So, when I got into this new project, all the tools were different. You remember that I learned those, I just told you. I learned like 4 or 5, 9 tools. Every single tool has a goal. It was just to do some step of the process, right? Of creating an application that is cloud, that is. So in the previous 2 years, by my own decision, by my own means, I learned to use tools for those steps. But now, in my day job, they say these are the new tools, and none of them was the same that I learned. I was like, guess what did I do? It was like, I know how this step has to be. I use this one, this old tool, free tool, basic tool. Now I have to use this other one that is better. And I start learning. But I wasn't shocked. I wasn't like, oh my gosh, I don't know, I can never do this. What is going to happen with me? I was like, boy, this is very similar to that. And that one is very similar to that one. So it was easier because my mind was already understanding. So in my mind, I didn't have to learn all the steps. I just had to take one tool and use the new one. The one that my daily job, they want for me to use. So I was prepared. And that's interesting because I didn't knew that I was coming in the place where I work. Where somehow I start like, I really want to learn this. I'm getting behind and all that. So by the time I start learning the new tools and say, this is the first one I learned, but now I'm not going to use it because I need to use this one. I put it a different one. And I put a different and I put a different. And it took me a year or something to get used to all that. A lot of people ask me, in that moment, were you an expert? Like really an expert? And I say, I was not an expert in the moment when I decided to start learning. After 2 years learning in the free tools and the outside, outside my daily job, in the weekends, I wasn't an expert, but I was somebody that knew how to do something from start to end, and it was working, and I got in experience, my mind got trained, and I was ready for the moment when the technology change happened in the company where I work. And that made my life easier. It was hard to learn the tools, the new ones and the original. Of course it was hard. What is the fun part of that? Because if everything is just easy, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm bored. Like just pulling your eyebrows, right? It's just bored. But the thing is, when you learn, because you have this thing inside you, say, I don't know, I think that I need to do something a little bit different, learn something. What happens is that you get prepared. And that's how you hack yourself. How you say, I like that skill and I want to have it. I will get it. And this is a thing that I wanted to share. To share with, And this applies, obviously, I'm a software developer, right? I don't know about I know about computers, but no, I'm not an expert. If my computer, this laptop or that one or something just fail, I don't know. I don't know how to fix it. I don't know how to do a lot of stuff. But software, the process of creating software, that is what I'm good to, right? And this is how I improve my skills from one technology to the new one. And this is for a software developer. What if I'm a writer? Say, for example, you say, "Oh, I know the steps, how to publish, how to, or say you plan or do all the logistics for, I don't know, events or conventions. You know the steps, right? And you say, I want to do the next step. I want to learn the next tools, what is coming. So it's the same thing. You find a way to hack yourself. And that's the interesting part. Say, that is what I really like about this process. You start hacking yourself into becoming a new person. And that is good. Well, good evening. My name is Carlos, and this is the channel is Yutochi, and more to come. Bye bye. Good evening. If I'm able to finish this thing.